guys, welcome back to my new series, How to Be Healthy. This is the second episode. As you guys recall, the last episode kind of just like went over basically like, what type of foods or what type of ingredients you should be looking out for when purchasing your foods, certain types of ingredients to avoid, and that type of thing. So now that you're familiar with reading labels and deciding what type of foods to get at the grocery store, this episode I'm actually going to be going over what or how to actually go about putting together a perfectly balanced plate. So before I actually show you guys how to prepare a plate or a meal that is fully balanced, I wanted to basically kind of let you know why it is actually so important to actually eat balanced. Basically, if you're eating unbalanced, what happens is there can actually be increases and decreases, so basically spikes and drops in your blood sugar. That in turn actually causes you to have cravings, to make bad food decisions. And a lot of the times with these cravings, that is actually kind of like your body's cues, your body's signals telling you that you're actually lacking certain nutrients. But unfortunately, we think, oh, you know what, I'm gonna grab like this chocolate bar or whatever because I'm craving sugar. But, I wanna actually basically help you guys improve that, drop those cravings, and kind of just like give you a better nutritious and fully balanced way of eating. So I'm going to show you how to put together a perfectly balanced meal. I'm actually going to show you a vegetarian option and a non-vegetarian option. All right, so the first option I'm gonna show you is basically with some chicken, some short grain brown rice, a little bit of veggies, and a little bit of fat. All right, so remember I said on portion sizes with grains, you really want to make sure that you're not having too much grains, but you want to make sure that they're coming from something like brown rice. Don't use like white rice or anything processed. Another thing is that you can actually get this in the bulk section and actually bag it yourself and save money on packaging. So basically the rule of thumb is for a grain, you want to have a cupped handful of the cooked grain, okay? I'm gonna basically kind of eyeball it. You can definitely put it in your hand if you want to. If you're the one eating it, it's not gonna matter. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use a spoon and kind of eyeball this, as far as in, the cup size portion. So it's gonna basically, for me, it's gonna be something kind of like this, which is almost like the equivalent to, I wanna say like about a fourth cup, maybe a little bit more. And that is what it actually looks like, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and then add some of my chicken. And with this, you wanna keep it the palm size of your hand. So it's basically gonna be like think of it this way. If you didn't have your fingers, including your thumb, and you want it to be the thickness of the palm of your hand. So that's basically, again, what your meat size should be, okay? Now, approximately, I want to say it's approximately like, for me, it's going to be like 4 ounces. Sometimes I eat a little bit more depending on, like when I'm lifting weights, if I need a little bit more protein, and that's a whole other story. So again, if I'm kind of eyeballing this and just kind of, for me, this is approximately 4 ounces, maybe just shy of 4 ounces. And what I would actually recommend, you can actually do this with a kitchen scale, like with one of those digital kitchen scales. I know that I got like this really cheap, but very good, it worked fine. I got it from Amazon. A digital kitchen scale would be good if you don't feel comfortable with just doing like portion sizes by your hand and you'd rather be more precise, then a kitchen scale would be a great option for that. All right, now if you've noticed, basically, half of my plate is actually grain and protein, okay? So I'm actually gonna fill the rest of my plate up with vegetables. Now, I would actually recommend lower calorie vegetables that are filling, and those would be something like broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, green beans, cauliflower. Those type of vegetables are actually very filling and they're very nutrient dense. For this, I'm going to actually just be showing you guys what that portion looks like. So I'm just using some pre-washed arugula and I'm just, honestly, you don't even need to worry with the vegetables for the most part of like, even thinking about like portions. A lot of us are actually not getting enough. So I'm just gonna kind of really just load these up there. And what I would recommend is not to buy any bottled like salad dressings. I would actually make your own. And of course in some later videos I'll include some recipes and show you guys like how to make your own olive oil type based dressings, and even like different dressings using like nut butters, things like that. I have a couple really cool options. All right, so this is basically what your plate should look like. You've got, so far, we've got our carbs. Vegetables do count as carbs, but I consider them almost in another category if you're having grains as well. And then you've got your protein, so greens, grains, and protein. And then obviously we need a fat. So for this, I've actually chosen some shredded Parmesan and Romano mix. And with this, you want to keep in mind, you want it to be basically 1 or 2 thumb size fulls. You can do like a tablespoon if you want. You want to make sure that it's not like a tablespoon like this, or like a super huge, gigantic tablespoon like that. You want to keep it relatively an actual tablespoon. So I'm going to use this right here. This is approximately, I would say this is about 1.5 thumbfuls for me. And what you're going to do is you're just going to basically just spread it all over, or just put it anywhere you want to, really. If you want to use it for the chicken or the rice, you can do that. I'm actually putting it in my arugula, so this way I can create an actual like good tasting salad. I don't really like my greens or like vegetables kind of just plain. I usually like to put something on them for taste. And that's another thing that I want to say to you guys. Yes, even though I'm like eating super healthy and super clean, I care about taste too. So I don't want to be eating something that tastes like really disgusting. All right, so this is the finished product of what your plate should look like, okay? So if you are having grains, you want to make sure that you are, it's a cup-sized handful of the cooked grain, and that's going to be on one side of your plate. This on the same side is going to be your protein, and then the rest of your plate, the half of your plate, you want to just load up on vegetables. And then you can just include a small portion of fat. This is a completely balanced meal right here. Okay, so let's say for the sake of excluding a grain, so I've already actually taken off the brown rice, okay? If you decide that you want to actually load up on vegetables, there's nothing wrong with that, but you want to make sure that they're dense and basically nutrient dense and lower calorie vegetables. So that's pretty much how I eat for my lunch. I have like a grain in the morning, so I either have like, my oat bran or, oatmeal, something like that, which is my grain. And then like for lunch, I'll usually have like a protein and then a fat, and then my carbs are actually my vegetables, because I fill up and load up my plate with like nutrient dense vegetables. So things like cabbage, you can do like, honestly, I mean, you could cook a pound of cabbage and that would fill up your plate nicely once it's cooked, because it shrinks a little bit. And then you can add maybe like a little handful of higher calorie vegetables, like Brussels sprouts are a little higher in calories. You can put that on top for variation. And then you add in your fats. So you don't have to use like cheese or anything like that. You could make a sauce out of like full fat yogurt, like Greek yogurt, and you could do something like lemon juice, salt, pepper, yogurt, add some spices in. You can even make a ranch dressing out of yogurt, which would be way better. So basically what I'm gonna do, instead of using that grain, I've taken that off my plate, and I'm gonna actually just load up more with the arugula. So I'm gonna basically just put it on my entire plate, and then what I would do is I would actually just move the chicken on top and mix all this together and make my own little dressing. You could do like olive oil, vinegar, and Italian spices, for instance, and that would actually take the place of the cheese. Or you could use half the cheese and just like maybe like half a tablespoon of the olive oil and vinegar mix, and put that on your plate. And that would actually be another fully balanced meal. All right, vegetarians, I have not forgotten about you. I'm gonna show you guys how to prepare a balanced meal. And I just wanna say this just for the purpose of people thinking that they need to have beans with grains to make a complete protein. While yes, beans and like for instance, my brown rice and my lentils, yes, that's going to create an actual full protein with all the amino acids. Like it's basically going to be a complete protein. But there's actually no need to do that if you're having enough mixed sources of proteins throughout the day. So in other words, if you want to have rice with something later and you want to have lentils per se, like with a salad, that's totally fine. Variation is key in vegetarian diets, and you want to make sure that you're eating very nutrient dense foods. All right, so I'm going to show you the traditional way for vegetarians to get a complete protein, okay? Just keep in mind those things that I said before. So you could actually add in just like a little cupped handful of your brown rice. And then for this, now this is where it gets a little tricky. You want to make sure that you're getting enough protein in lentils. And really honestly, this is probably like a whole other video, just to show you kind of like balanced eating for vegetarians. I could probably do a whole series on it, to be honest with you. But because vegetarian sources do have less protein, you want to make sure that you are getting enough. So with lentils, I actually use a full cup of lentils. So, I'm just going to show you, I'm just going to estimate here. But with lentils, you do want to use, I would use, if you don't want to use a full cup of lentils, then what you could do is you could add other nutrient dense foods that have some protein in them. I know broccoli does have a little bit of small amount of protein in them. You can use, you can top your plate with like chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds. Those are higher in protein, seeds, nuts, things like that. But what I would do is also, again, the other half of your plate, just like with the meat option, okay? So you fill the other half of your plate up with vegetables, and you can even throw in some cucumbers. I've got some cucumbers here, okay? And then, as far as in fats, now this goes for everybody. So non-vegetarian, vegetarians, you can use any type of fats that you want. Vegetable sources for those vegetarians. But meat eaters can use vegetable sources of fats as well. So for instance, if you want to use an avocado, cut an avocado up or make guacamole out of that. Avocados are a great source of fat. Now you can actually make an awesome salad dressing out of some type of nut butter. For instance, I would do something like cashew butter, a little bit of lemon juice, or even tahini, a little bit of lemon juice. You can add in to balance that out about a teaspoon of either maple syrup or honey. I know vegetarians, if you guys are vegan, I would stick with the maple syrup. And then add in your spices like, your salt and pepper. So that's basically how you want to balance out your plates, okay? And like I said, for those people that are eating meat, you can definitely just load your plate up with vegetables. Same thing for vegetarians. You can actually leave out for one of the meals, for one of the meals that you have during the day, as long as you're getting some sort of grain somewhere else usually. You can actually take off the rice for one of your meals, and you can load the plates up with vegetables and then put on your lentils and then put on your fat, okay? So out of all of this, I hope you guys have gathered basically that you want to make sure you're having a protein, a fat, and a carb with every single meal, and you want to make sure that it's portioned properly for your body, for you. Another thing that I wanted to kind of go over with you guys as well is that you can actually use spices. So I have something like this spice rack right here, and I believe I got this at Costco. What you can do is you can play around with the spices and see what you like and add them to like your meals. So instead of overindulging in salt and thinking that salt and pepper are like your only options, get familiar with the different spices. A lot of the time, some grocery stores will actually have a bulk bin section where you can fill up your own spices in little plastic bags. And it is seriously insane how much money that you can actually save that way. These companies that are charging you for their little glass, containers, it's crazy how much they're actually charging for them. So that's a great way to save money and kind of like, you know, especially if you're shopping on a budget. I mean, you know, I definitely go that route. I don't want to pay somebody for their glass jar when I can buy my own glass jars on Amazon for cheaper and fill them up myself. All right, so I hope that helped you guys out in preparing a balanced meal and kind of gave you some ideas. Definitely play around with like your fruits, your veggies, you know, your proteins. And if you guys have any questions, definitely put them in the comments below. I'll be looking at those frequently and making sure that I'm answering all your questions. A couple tips that I want to give you guys as well. When you're cooking your vegetables, do not overcook them, okay? So when you're on the stovetop and you're sauteing your vegetables, I personally saute my vegetables in water, and I add water as needed, and then I put my spices in there and everything. You want to make sure that you're not cooking those vegetables till like they're falling apart and soggy. You want them to retain a little bit of that crisp type taste. Otherwise, you are basically cooking the nutrients out of those vegetables. Another thing as well is that you want to make sure that you're not getting canned vegetables, any type of processed vegetables. Keep it, you know, simple, keep it pure. Get your food sources in the natural state, okay? All right, guys, that's all I have for today. Hope you guys liked this video. I hope this is inspiring to you and just kind of motivated you to eat healthy and to better yourself. Again, please put those questions in the comments below. And of course, if you just have like a comment or some input or an opinion, put that in there as well. I'll be happy to, you know, conversate with you guys and of course, answer all those questions. Thank you so much again. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please definitely share with your friends. I really appreciate the support. Don't forget to subscribe to my video for more informative information videos like this one, and I will see you guys next time.